The brass nameplate on my desk still reads Chief Robert Henley, though I haven't worn the badge in 3 years. Some mornings I wake up and forget. Reach for the radio that isn't there, listen for sirens that don't come, but then I remember, and the weight settles back into my chest like smoke in my lungs, thick, choking, permanent. They gave me a hero's retirement. 28 years of service, they said. A lifetime of saving lives. The mayor spoke at my ceremony, talked about my distinguished career and unwavering dedication. The whole department stood and applauded. Even Martha was there, sitting in the back row with that careful smile she wore to public events, the one that never quite reached her eyes anymore. If they only knew. The call came in at 11:47 p.m. on October 15th. I remember because I was staring at the clock, couldn't sleep, hadn't been sleeping well for months. The dispatcher's voice crackled through. Structure fire, 1247 Maple Street, single-family residence, possible occupants inside. 1247 Maple Street, Sarah's address. My ex-wife had been living there for 2 years with him. David Mitchell, the insurance adjuster she'd met at some community fundraiser. The man who'd stepped into the space I'd carved out of our marriage with my job, my absences, my inability to be present even when I was home. I should have been moving before the dispatcher finished speaking, should have been pulling on my gear, barking orders, coordinating the response. Instead, I sat in my office chair and felt something cold and bitter unfurl in my chest. Chief? Captain Rodriguez's voice came from the doorway. We've got a working structure fire on Maple Street. Engine 12 and ladder 5 are en route. Copy that, I said, my voice steady as granite. I'll be right behind you. But I wasn't right behind them. I sat there for exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. I know because I watched the second hand sweep around the clock face, each tick echoing in my skull like a countdown. 4 minutes and 37 seconds, while Sarah's house burned, while David Mitchell, the man who'd stolen my wife's heart with his presence and attention and ability to come home for dinner every night, was trapped inside. When I finally arrived on scene, the flames were already licking through the upstairs windows. Engine 12 had their lines charged and were making their attack. But the fire had a significant head start. In a structure fire, every second counts. Every second I'd stolen from my response time was a second that could mean the difference between life and death. Chief, Lieutenant Hayes ran up to me, his face streaked with soot. We've got confirmation of 2 occupants. Female made it out on her own, but there's a male still inside. Second floor master bedroom. Sarah stood across the street, wrapped in a neighbor's coat, her face lit orange by the flames consuming our old dreams. She looked small and broken, nothing like the vibrant woman I'd married 22 years ago. When she saw me, her eyes widened with something that might have been hope. Bobby, she called out, using the name she'd given up calling me years before the divorce. Please, David's still in there. He went back for photo albums, our wedding pictures. Please, our wedding pictures, not the ones from our courthouse ceremony in but the elaborate affair she'd had with David just 6 months ago. The wedding I'd heard about through mutual friends. The one where she'd worn white again and smiled like she meant it. We'll get him out, I told her, and I meant it. Whatever poison I'd let seep into my heart during those 4 minutes and 37 seconds, I meant it. But the delay had cost us. The second floor was fully involved when we made entry. The stairs were compromised, the heat unbearable even through our protective gear. We tried everything. Interior attack, ladders, even considered a defensive strategy and then switched back to offensive when we heard what we thought might be voices. We found David Mitchell in the master bedroom, unconscious from smoke inhalation, surrounded by scattered photographs and a melted picture frame. The wedding photos Sarah had mentioned were scattered around him like confetti, their edges curled and blackened. We got him out, performed CPR right there on the front lawn while Sarah knelt beside us, her hands pressed to her mouth, whispering prayers or promises or both. The paramedics worked on him for 23 minutes. I counted every second of those too. He never regained consciousness. The investigation ruled it an accidental fire, old wiring in the kitchen, a common cause in houses from the 1950s. The report praised our department's response time and professionalism. No one questioned why it took me almost 5 minutes to reach a scene that was less than a mile from the station. At the funeral, Sarah held David's mother's hand, while the pastor spoke about a life cut short, about love that transcends death, about how sometimes the Lord calls us home when we're trying to save the things that matter most. I stood in the back, still in uniform, because that's what was expected. The grieving ex-husband, paying his respects, showing the kind of class that small towns remember and talk about for years. People shook my hand afterward, thanked me for trying, for being there for Sarah, even after everything. They called me noble, professional, a credit to the badge, if they only knew. The nightmare started immediately. Not about the fire. I'd fought hundreds of fires, pulled dozens of people from burning buildings. The nightmares were about the clock, about sitting in my office chair, watching those 4 minutes and 37 seconds tick by, while I let my bitterness make the choice. In my dreams, the clock face grows larger and larger, until it fills my vision, and I can hear David Mitchell calling for help, his voice getting weaker with each tick. I tried to tell myself it wouldn't have mattered, that 4 minutes in a fire like that was nothing, that the outcome would have been the same regardless. But firefighters know the truth about time and fire. We know that structure fires double in size every minute. We know that the difference between rescue and recovery can be measured in heartbeats. I know that if I'd moved when I should have moved, David Mitchell might have lived to see his first anniversary with my ex-wife. Martha, my current wife, my second chance at love, knew something was wrong. She'd wake up to find me standing at the bedroom window, staring out at the street like I was waiting for sirens. She'd ask what was bothering me, and I'd lie, tell her it was the normal stress of the job, the weight of responsibility, the accumulated grief of 28 years of emergency response. You should talk to someone, she'd say, her hand warm on my back. Dr. Peterson helped Frank after the Riverside apartment fire. There's no shame in it, Bobby. You've seen things nobody should have to see. But how do you tell a therapist that you let a man die? How do you explain that you're not suffering from trauma, but from a choice? That you're not a hero wrestling with the weight of lives you couldn't save, but a man who chose, for 4 minutes and 37 seconds, not to try? The recommendation for early retirement came from the department psychologist after I failed my annual fitness evaluation. Not physically, but mentally. I'd been making mistakes, small ones, but in our line of work, small mistakes compound into disasters, missing details in pre-fire inspections, forgetting equipment checks, losing focus during training exercises. 28 years is a hell of a run, Chief, Dr. Morrison said, her voice gentle but firm. You've given this job everything you had. Maybe it's time to give something back to yourself. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was being forced to retire for being unfit for duty, while the whole community believed I was a hero. The newspaper ran a feature story about my career, complete with photos from major fires and rescue operations. They mentioned the Mitchell fire, of course, describing it as one of Chief Henley's final acts of service, a tragic reminder that even the most skilled firefighters cannot always overcome the cruel mathematics of time and flame. The cruel mathematics of time and flame. If only they knew how cruel, how exact those mathematics really were. Sarah came to my retirement party. I was surprised to see her there, standing near the buffet table with a plate she wasn't eating from. She looked older, worn thin by grief. But there was something in her posture that reminded me of the woman I'd married, a stubborn strength that life couldn't quite break. I wanted to thank you, she said when she found me alone near the back of the room, for trying to save him. I know it couldn't have been easy, given our history. Sarah, I know. Let me finish. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly as she set down her untouched plate. David knew about us, about our marriage, about how it ended. He wasn't threatened by it. He said you were a good man who'd married the wrong woman at the wrong time. He respected you. The words hit me like a physical blow. David Mitchell had respected me. The man I'd let die had spoken well of me to my ex-wife, had understood the complexity of loving someone whose job demanded everything, and left scraps for home. He would have wanted me to tell you that, Sarah continued, that there was no animosity, no competition. He knew I'd always care about you, and he was okay with that. He was secure enough in what we had together. After she walked away, I locked myself in the men's room and wept for the first time since the night of the fire. Not for David Mitchell, though God knows he deserved tears. I wept for the man I'd thought I was, the man I'd spent 28 years trying to be, the man who died in those 4 minutes and 37 seconds of bitter hesitation. The hero's retirement lasted exactly 18 months. Martha left me on a Tuesday morning, taking only her clothes and a photo of us from our wedding day. She left a note on the kitchen table, written in her careful cursive. I can't watch you destroy yourself anymore. Whatever happened, whatever you're carrying, it's bigger than both of us. I love you, but I can't save you. Only you can do that. She was right, of course. The secret had become a cancer, eating away at everything it touched. I'd become a stranger to myself, going through the motions of retirement while replaying those 4 minutes and 37 seconds in endless torturous detail. What if I'd moved immediately? What if I'd never let my personal feelings contaminate my professional judgment? What if David Mitchell had lived to celebrate that first anniversary, to maybe have children with Sarah, to grow old in the house that should have been their sanctuary? I started drinking seriously about a month after Martha left, not the occasional beer after shift that most firefighters indulged in, but the kind of drinking that's meant to wash away memory, to blur the sharp edges of guilt until they can't cut you anymore. It didn't work. If anything, the alcohol made the memories sharper, more vivid. I could smell the smoke, hear Sarah calling my name, feel the weight of David Mitchell's lifeless body as we carried him from the burning house. The bottle became my constant companion, my confessor, my judge and jury. I'd sit in my recliner with a glass of whiskey and tell the empty room about those 4 minutes and 37 seconds, about the choice I'd made and the man who died because of it, about the hero's retirement built on a foundation of cowardice and spite. It was during one of these drunken confessions that I realized the true depth of my selfishness. I wasn't mourning David Mitchell. I was mourning my own self-image. I wasn't tormented by his death so much as by the revelation of what I was capable of. The great Bobby Henley, the dedicated fire chief, the man who devoted his life to saving others, had been undone by petty jealousy and wounded pride. That realization should have destroyed me. Instead, it saved me. I found Dr. Peterson's number in my phone. Martha had entered it months ago, back when she still thought professional help might make a difference. It took me 3 tries to dial correctly, my hands shaking from withdrawal and shame. When I finally got through, I said only this: I need to tell someone about the night David Mitchell died. Dr. Peterson didn't ask questions over the phone. He simply said, "Can you be here in an hour?" The confession took 4 hours. 4 hours to explain what I'd done in 4 minutes and 37 seconds. 4 hours to dissect the anatomy of a choice that had haunted me for 2 years. Dr. Peterson listened without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions, but mostly just bearing witness to the weight I'd been carrying alone. "What do you want to happen now?" he asked when I finished. It was a simple question with a complicated answer. What I wanted was to go back and make the right choice. What I wanted was for David Mitchell to be alive, for Sarah to be happy, for Martha to still believe in the man she'd married. What I wanted was to undo the damage my moment of weakness had caused. "I want to stop being a coward," I said finally. Dr. Peterson nodded. "That's a start. But forgiveness, real forgiveness, the kind that sticks, that's not a destination. It's a daily choice. Are you prepared to make that choice every day for the rest of your life?" I thought about Sarah, standing in her nightgown while her second chance at happiness burned down around her. I thought about David Mitchell, who'd respected the man who would ultimately let him die. I thought about Martha, who'd loved me enough to leave when she realized her love couldn't save me from myself. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I want to try." The path back isn't a straight line. Some days I wake up and the weight feels manageable, like something I can carry without it crushing me. Other days, the guilt is so overwhelming I can barely function. But I get up anyway. I make the choice to face another day, to do better than I did in those 4 minutes and 37 seconds that defined me for too long. I volunteer now at the community center, teaching fire safety to kids. There's something healing about seeing their faces light up when they learn how to stop, drop, and roll, how to crawl under smoke, how to test doorknobs before opening doors. They look at me like I'm a hero, and I let them. Not because I believe it, but because they need to believe that heroes exist, that there are people who will always choose to run toward danger instead of away from it. Maybe someday I'll be the man they think I am. I haven't spoken to Sarah since my retirement party, but I drive past the empty lot where her house used to be every few weeks. The city demolished the structure after the fire, too much damage to repair. There's a for sale sign in the yard now. stuck in ground that's been graded smooth, as if nothing significant ever happened there. But I know what happened there. I know that a good man died because another man spent 4 minutes and 37 seconds choosing bitterness over duty. I know that love stories can end in ash and regret, that heroes can be cowards, that the line between salvation and damnation can be measured in the space between heartbeats. I know that I killed David Mitchell as surely as if I'd struck the match myself, but I also know this. Acknowledgement is the first step toward atonement. Confession is the beginning of healing. And while I can't undo those 4 minutes and 37 seconds, I can choose how to spend all the minutes that come after. Every morning, I look at that brass nameplate on my desk, the one that still reads Chief Robert Henley, and I make a promise. Today I will be better. Today I will choose courage over comfort, duty over pride, service over self. Today I will try to become the man David Mitchell thought I was, the man Sarah once loved, the man Martha believed she was saving when she married me. It's not enough. It will never be enough to balance the scales, to undo the damage, to bring back the dead, but it's what I have to offer. The rest of my life spent trying to be worthy of the badge I once wore, the trust I once carried, the hero's retirement I never deserved. The fire took everything: David Mitchell's life, Sarah's second chance at happiness, my marriage to Martha, my sense of who I thought I was. But maybe if I'm very careful and very committed, I can build something new from the ashes. Not redemption. I'm not sure I believe in that anymore. But perhaps something smaller and more honest. A life lived in full acknowledgement of what I've done, dedicated to making sure I never make that choice again. The brass nameplate catches the morning light streaming through my window. Chief Robert Henley. I still don't know if I deserve the title, but I'm learning to carry it anyway, not as a badge of honor, but as a reminder of the weight of responsibility, the cost of failure, the mathematics of time and flame, and human choices. In 4 minutes and 37 seconds, I learned who I really was. The rest of my life is about learning who I might still become. The clock on my desk ticks steadily forward, marking the passage of moments I can't reclaim, and minutes I might yet redeem. I listen to each tick, remembering, regretting, and choosing, again and again, to keep going. What the fire took was everything I thought I knew about myself. What remains is the harder work of building something true from the ruins of a hero's reputation. It's not much, but it's a start. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, do well to click like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more heart-wrenching regret stories. And don't forget to click on the notification bell so you can be notified when I post subsequent videos. See you on my next video.